It's not a problem. Honestly, by the way, all of these issues are my fault. It's nothing to do with you at all. You're cool.
Yeah, man, don't worry about it. That's cool.
Okay, just checking everything is okay here and editing the stream info and making sure that everyone can hear both of us. I believe Timmy is saying that they can hear you. Hello, how are you doing?
He's
Hi. So nice to talk to you.
Hey, at any point, if you wish to join in, I have no problem with that whatsoever. Honestly, it's all good. It's all good. You are just as important a part of this as Bo themselves is. I know that Bo has done the development, but it's only with your love and support, right? So, like, you know, it's important. Honestly, it is important.
Yeah. So I've got you thrown through my headphones, so it's probably just going to be you and I chatting.
Okay, yeah, no, that's cool. Don't worry about it. But
I'm trying to find a way to make it so the TV will play the Twitch stream, and then I just get the chat between me and you, and I can hang out here in my living room.
Okay. Well, I presume that people are hearing okay because they say that they are.
Okay.
So yeah, it all seems okay. Now, like I sort of alluded to previous to the stream starting, I wish that I had been more prepared. Honestly, like I wish that like I had more things to specifically come up with previous to the chat. Unfortunately, just real life and stuff. But like we are gonna have a cool
Yeah,
chat.
life happens.
You know what I mean? And I know that the chat themselves are going to be asking questions. And I'm going to be trying my best to play through the game as best as I can. I'm just going to start now.
Yeah, go for it. So
Okay.
I know how tricky it is to try and play that game while chatting or having a conversation on the side. Like I'll be sitting there playtesting it, and Okidoki's will be over here talking to me, and I just I notice myself playing worse, trying to pay attention to her while trying to play my own game. I'm like, oh god.
It happens. Now, I suppose we'll just start like now. I mean, I guess talking normally or whatever. So like, what sort of came first to you with this game? I mean, I know that this came out over, well, almost a year ago initially, and it's sort of been in a state of early access ever since. I mean, was that a deliberate decision, or I don't know. What's your
yeah? At the time, it was kind of deliberate because I started on the thing. And I was like, this is kind of neat. This is kind of cool. And I think around the time that I finished the second stage, I just wasn't sure how far I'd end up going with this thing. Like, I knew I wanted to do 6 stages, but you get like a couple months into working on something, and doesn't really, you haven't really had a chance to show it to anyone, or anyone plays it, and you're just kind of like, I don't know if this is going to be a thing or not. So I ended up just dropping the 2 stages out. In the stage they were in. And actually, it might have been just the first stage, if I remember correctly. I don't totally remember, but either way, I wasn't sure where I was going, so I just put it out and was like, if people play it and it gets any traction, maybe I'll finish it.
Oh, exactly. I'm just going to ask the chat if the audio levels are okay, or if I have to lower the in-game volume in terms of our chat and the sound itself. But it's interesting to hear that you just sort of put it out there, because this was at last year's Dreamscom, right? You had a booth, and
yeah, I had just the first stage was the demo stage I put out there.
I mean, I have to give a shout out to Talk33, who is the person who actually made me aware of the stream. I'm not sure how I'd missed it in the past. I was not aware of it at last year's Dreamscom. Or maybe I was, and I don't know. It's the interesting thing about early access, right? Like, we don't know what state it was in at that time.
Back then it was like this goofy, rough state where, like, I don't know, things kind of worked but kind of didn't. Like, and my booth wasn't exactly wired up properly. Like, I made the thing, and people could see it and be like, hey, that's a cool ship, but, like, the instructions were to put a doorway in there, so I put in a doorway and no buttons to operate it, because I didn't know what I was doing back then.
And I mean, we sort of like entered the interview in terms of questions a bit late there, but that's just the nature of our sort of startup. But what actually got you first sort of, I mean, when did you first hear about Dreams, and what sort of made you want to make this game within Dreams? I don't know, like, yeah, I know that's 2 questions within one, man, but like, I mean, yeah.
So Dreams I hadn't heard of. I think until about like a few months before it came out, my coworker actually had found it and told me about it, and he was really excited about it. So I was like, oh hey, that's kind of neat. That's you can make whatever you want. Oh, this is made by the guys who did Little Big Planet. And so I played through the 3 previous Little Big Planet games. Got a little bit into the level creation on the first one, and the second one, actually, since it got a little bit more complex with what they can do, I actually made a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up in that. That was, rough. So, it was a place to start, but, like, I played a lot of these shoot-'em-ups growing up, so, I got over to Dreams. I was like, hey, I can make anything I want. I should probably start kind of in a more simple sphere. So, shoot-'em-ups were arcade games. You just move a ship around and you fire bullets, and it seemed pretty simple to work with. So I kind of went with that. And I always kind of wanted to make one. Like I always had this vision in my head of parallaxing backgrounds, which I didn't do with that, with Starfighter Gemini. But it's kind
a
of
good
like
starting
into,
point.
like,
It's a good
hey, I can make what I
idea.
want.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible. Like you mentioned, being inspired by certain games. Now, obviously, look, I'm a fan of shmups. I've played lots of them. But what particular ones were you sort of inspired by, or what are your favorites? Like, when did you start gaming? What sort of generation was your first, gaming experience or whatever? I'm always curious about that.
I started back on the NES. Actually, my dad was originally the one who was the gamer in the house, and he had bought the NES, and somewhere along the way we got the Sega, Super Nintendo, all of that. But I grew up playing games. Like I think when I was 2, I beat like the 3rd Super Mario World game. Not World game, Super Mario Brothers 3. That's the one I beat. So yeah, I grew up playing it all. And as far as like shmups go, I really didn't get into them until like that like Sega, Super Nintendo era. Before then it was like run and gun games like Contra or Super C. I was a huge fan of. I continued playing those like all through like my late teenage years. Like Super C, I've got like this like I don't know self-claim to fame where I can run through the game 5 times without dying. Like that was really exciting for me.
That's incredible, man. That's honestly incredible skill in memorization. Like, that's wonderful.
And that's kind of like what shmups are too. And so like, I on the Sega era, I remember my mom came home one day with Lightning Force on the Sega Genesis, which is kind of fun because they spelled lightning wrong on the cover, and in Japan it was actually Thunder Force 4 or something along those lines. So we got like a weird version of it. But I played a ton of that game. And actually part of that game sort of wormed its way into Starfighter Gemini. The orbiters that circle around the ship came from a power-up you get in that game. And I was like, I really want to do what that thing does, where it catches the bullets and stuff. So I started with that one. Raiden's a pretty obvious inspiration. What were some other ones that I played? I more recently started getting back into playing shmups because it was like I was really into them in my teenage years, and then more lately, I recently bought a Switch, and I decided to turn that into like a little shmup machine.
Yeah, I can imagine. I used to have a Wii, which I'd done a similar thing with. Yeah. It's incredible, right? Having access to all of these shmups and that, yeah,
it's great. There's actually a channel on YouTube that just talks about shmups specifically on Switch. That's kind of a fun one to go through and be like, oh, I should buy that one now. But Ikaruga's kind of an obvious pickup for some of my inspiration. Like I've got the 2 different color projectiles in this one. One you can parry, one you can't. So that kind of gets pulled off of Ikaruga.
No, it's incredible. Like, I myself have been a fan of shmups for a long time. I remember playing the original Gradius on, like, an Amstrad, which sounds ridiculous to say nowadays. It was actually even called Nemesis in the UK for some reason. It wasn't called Gradius, but it was Gradius. And shmups have a long time been a part of my life, and Starfighter Gemini is up there, man. Honestly, what you've done is incredible here within Dreams. It's honestly fantastic.
It was fun. I honestly just wasn't sure where I was going to go with it. So when I got Dreams, that was back in May of last year, and that was not too long after furlough started for me back in March. That's when the U.S. sort of closed down on all the stores and everything. Like, stay home, don't go outside. And so my brother had actually bought Dreams for me and then had it Amazon packaged, ordered to me, whatever, without telling me. So it just shows up at my door one day, and I was like, "Oh, hey, that's awesome! Let's play with this." And you go through the tutorial, and I'm like, my first ship I made in this thing was just a travesty. Like I got through all the tutorial stuff and sat down. I was like, all right, I'm actually going to sit down and make a ship that flies and moves, and I got all that worked up. And I think about 2 weeks into working on this thing, my PlayStation data got corrupted, and it all just got trashed.
No.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of like one of those things where like you lose you lose what you were working on. And then you're like, all right, I'm going to go back, I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to do it better, and I'm going to have more features and whatnot on it. So I came back with a much better ship design. I actually have an unlisted YouTube video of what my original ship looked like, and me and Keely were watching it recently, and it's like I'm glad my data got corrupted at that point.
It's not a problem. I'm just looking at your profile just now, and I'm seeing, obviously, like, I noticed this before the stream, right? But Starfighter Gemini is the only thing that you have released publicly. Like, I'm just wondering, did you actually start making this within Dreams, or do you have any secrets? Like, did you have, like, an Ancient Times remix, or a Dreamiverse Dash, or anything?
No, I went straight from the tutorials into making a shmup.
That's awesome. That's genuinely incredible.
I think like, you know, if... Like in Little Big Planet, I played around a lot more with making like platformers and what. But when I got around to this, like, I just knew I wanted to work on it. Went from there on.
Okay.
And just, turned into this thing.
Yeah. Look, I think it's only fair if I start playing the game just now. But also, in the credits here, I just want to say thank you for giving a shout out to myself.
Yeah,
like,
honestly, like, so I wouldn't have even found this community, and I think I mentioned this to you before. I wouldn't have found this community if you hadn't streamed my game that one day. I was, it's the middle of, what was it, January, I think. I went out to buy groceries, and I loaded them all in my car, and I was just sitting there, like, on my phone. I kept getting, like, hits on Dreams of, like, hey, people are playing my game today. That's kind of weird. And then I find out later it's because you were pushing it on Twitter. And I was like, oh, okay, that's why. And so, I'm in the parking lot going through my phone, and it says one player's streaming your game. And I was like, oh. And I just ran home real fast.
Thank you. But also, of course, shout out to Kataya for fighting through the toughest version of Stage 4 stream. And look, shout out to Trix as well, okay? I know that Trix has also been, like, a champion of your game and stuff. And I'm just saying it just now. Like, yeah, don't worry. I mean, you don't have to. It's fine. Like, I'm just giving him a shout out just now. Feel free to. I'm just saying, like, shout out Trix as well. But yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. Look, thank you. Shout out to Talc for introducing me to the game. Because somehow it passed me by, and that is potentially a slightly awkward thing, like, because you released this like a year ago, and I know you had been updating it, but it can be difficult to find older things that have been updated. Like, I don't know, yeah, like, shout out to Talc for introducing me to it, and congratulations to you for keeping on, and for keeping the faith and continuing the project going, because it's incredible stuff. Like, honestly, it's amazing.
Yeah, well, once it got out to that public eye, and I saw that people were really enjoying it, I'm like, well, I got to keep going now.
Okay, well, that's awesome. I'm gonna start it now, but I'm gonna start it on. Look, I'm gonna play the easiest difficulty. I'm gonna play free play,
go for it.
Just to get through the game, and then later on I will of course go to one life mode, because I see that as the true mode. And that is definitely what I will be doing, like, in general in my life whenever I have free moments. Because this game is amazing and I will be playing a lot of it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, honestly, it's incredible.
So like if you're playing through this and you manage to not use a continue, it takes about a half hour to get through, I think, is about close to where I timed it at.
Okay, so exactly. It is, I mean, this is a proper full-on game. Like, I have no problem saying that, I know I've just died, right? But it doesn't matter, it's free play and we're warming up. I've deliberately not played this in quite a while, just because I knew that it was coming. Like, I wanted to save myself for the full thing.
Yeah, get that pure experience.
I know I just died again, but that was only remembering the controls. I actually just pressed X to do the the whatchamacallit there, and it didn't
The
happen.
parry.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
know it's R1 now. I just pressed X. That's why I died a moment ago. Like
Yeah,
I said,
I
I
ended up
am
putting in
becoming
that,
familiar with it again.
Yeah. I ended up putting in that those custom controls because I got so many requests for like having a different button here or a different button there, or I wish this button was a shoot button. Which, fair play to everyone. Like everyone's got different like expectations of what controls might be for different things.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I gotta figure out a way to make it so that somebody else can just play it how they want. I don't have to add every single button on the controller to the game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly. I mean, the way that look, I am not a game designer at all. I've made some things in dreams, but I'm not a skilled game designer, okay? Honestly, I'm not on your level or the level of many other people. But the way that I do view game design is that games should be accessible to everyone, and yet, with a certain level of like skill challenge for the people who wish to have that skill challenge, right?
Yeah, I agree with that totally. Like I'm a huge fan of like the Dark Souls games, Bloodborne. I've probably mentioned that on a number of different like Twitters and Discords how much I love Bloodborne. And it is kind of unfortunate that like some people just can't get through that game or fully experience it just because the difficulty is a bit impeding to some people. Like I'm going through Sekiro right now, and that game is crushing. And I can only imagine like some people like they really want to go and check this game out, but like they can't get past the first boss or something along those lines. So it's like I get it, that's rough. Yeah, and when I made this, I originally didn't have the difficulties put in there. I was like, you have 3 lives, and if you don't make it, then that's that sucks. And then,
I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then somewhere along the way, it was just kind of like, why not have a free play mode that has a lower scoring potential in it? All right, that's fine. Then people get to play the game. They don't score as high as the people that play on the harder difficulties. And then everyone gets to enjoy it, and that's kind of cool.
Oh, exactly. I actually can't believe it how bad I'm doing here. I am just getting reacquainted with it. Like, I have played real, like, one life mode, and I've gotten to stage 4 in the past, but it has been a while.
Yeah.
So I'm just sort of getting to grips with it again. Plus, there's that whole thing of talking while... Yeah, go ahead and say it. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, so Judge and Fury here, they got a bit of a visual upgrade with the full release version. The previous version had like these weird crawling lines on them, and my fiance hated them.
Okay.
She has to point that out because they were just like she was like they're icky and gross, and it took me forever to change them. And I finally did it. She's like, all right, that's way better. Don't do that anymore.
Fair enough. I mean, it's good that you take that sort of level of advice. I mean, you say your fiance there, like you're getting ready for a wedding, right? That must be a thing.
Yeah.
How's that going? I hope it's all going okay. I know your fiance has been again like very supportive in terms of like Twitter support and stuff for this game.
Which must be really nice. On Twitter about this game than I do.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
She's been super supportive. It's been fantastic. The wedding planning is, it is what it is. It's a lot of work, a lot of time spent looking up things, and I'm doing the graphic design for all the invites, so we got to sit down and figure out what we want to have on them, how it looks, all that fun stuff. So it's a little bit more work on that end, but it's it is what it is. Sometimes it's going to be stressful with the planning, and sometimes like, all right, cool, we're getting married soon, and we've been engaged for like 4 years, so
that's
about
cool.
time we get this whole thing figured out.
Like just a little diversion, right? But are they generally into video games? Do they play video games with you? Do they have any favorites? Like, have they played Starfighter Gemini? And like, what do they think of that?
Yeah, she's played it. It's not her kind of game. Yeah, she likes it. She thinks it's super cool. It's not her favorite one to sit down and play with. She really loves the BioWare Mass Effect and Dragon Age games, like those story-heavy games. She's really, really into those. I think she's played Mass Effect through more times than I've actually played any other game that I've ever had through.
Wow. Like the entire trilogy or just the original? Like, I know I'm doing terrible here, by the way. Just honestly, I'm gonna redeem myself so hard in the next week or so. But yeah.
We're gonna see you on the top of the scoreboards later and be like, I knew he could do it.
It's just that thing of being on stream and also talking and trying to keep up with the chat. There is quite a lot going on. But I just want to say, if you are able to see the chat and you do see anything come up that you wish to interact with or engage with, feel free to interact or engage with it. In terms of questions or whatever. I'm not running the show here. This is for the people. I know that sounds a bit mad, but you know what I mean. Like honestly, it's all about you guys. I'm just here as a facilitator. Yeah, so you know, that's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah. So Keely just passed me a note. She's like, "Oh, who's in your game? You want to tell people who's in your game?" Keely does the ship voice.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah. Every time you pick up a power up, every time you get a life back, you know, you hear her voice kind of chirping. Whenever the Gemini activates, the warning sound. That's all her.
And Keely, is Keely available for more voice work within the Dreamiverse in general?
I bet she would be willing to be.
Yeah, like I'm just checking with you because I often see people say things in various Discords and on Twitter and everything, saying, "Hey, does anyone know any female voice actors for the Dreamiverse?" Because there are a bunch of them, but also there's always room for more. So you know, shout out to Keely if you like the voice of Starfighter Gemini. Send job offers that way.
She's in the chat right now, throwing down her information.
Because yeah, seriously, like as far as like that's what it's all about. It's about sharing the love and sharing the wealth. That sounds like a weird phrase, but like I do believe in the importance. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like.
You know, aside from the busy wedding planning we got going on, maybe wait until after September, and we'll have a lot more time to play with stuff in the Dreamiverse.
See, the thing is, right, and as you would expect the case to be, the more I am playing this, the better I am getting. Like, I know I just died again as I said that. That's just typical. That's fate. That's how it works. And I know you have a delay, so you've not seen it yet. But, like, you know, that is the amazing thing about this game, though. You do need to be, like, sort of prepared. Like, the more you play it, the better you will get.
Yeah, you'll get used to some bosses. Like here on Tournament, it's got that one phase where everything just kind of shoots in a direct path. And, I'm sorry, it's not directed. There's a term for it. There's the shots that are directed at you, and there's shots that just kind of have a set pattern. You know, that first step's always got that big purple ball. You just have to dodge around that. You just keep in mind you gotta dodge around that thing, and you can do the rest of that fight pretty easy.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, I know that you can. I'm just doing terrible, but it's okay. Like, in a few weeks' time, I'll be up there on the scoreboards. Don't worry about that. Yeah, I'm just, you know.
You know, and one of the things you might notice too with the free play, you're actually scoring points now. Previously, I had it where you were scoring nothing if you were on free play. Like, you know, free play is not worth a damn thing. And so I switched that over because, like, you know, you go to the scoreboard and you start scrolling down and see people's scores, and then like 2/3 of the scoreboard is just zeros, and that kind of felt awful. Like, I don't want to do that to people.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice to include everyone where you can. Like,
yeah. You know, if the scoring is scaled down, let the free play, you know, people who play on free play get whatever score they want, and you know, then you can feel like you're not at the bottom of the board every single time you play the game. We actually, there is a, you know, through the beta test, JC04TU made a good suggestion about the point scaling, where previously, like, Ace was double the score of playing on Veteran. And it kind of created this, like, big gulf between the two difficulties, where, like, if you play, you know, one level on Ace, then it's just, you know, equivalent of beating a level or 2 levels on a Veteran. And it kind of made it so, like, you know, the way he put it was like so that there, Ace and free play were the only 2 worthwhile modes. Just because of that big scoring thing. I was like, you know what, I get that. That makes a lot of sense. So, you know, I ended up going in there. I made like a little gadget for changing how the scoring is multiplied by score level, or not score level. I'm sorry, by difficulty level. And I just kind of changed the scaling on that, so it's a lot closer now to, like, if you were to beat the game on Veteran, you'd have to get to like the last 2 levels on Ace to get close to beating that same score. I tested that this morning, and that's how it went.
Okay, that's cool. Now, you just mentioned testing. Are you sick of your own game at this point? Because I imagine you've played it a lot. Like, how does that work out? I mean, how many times have you completed this from start to finish?
You know, honestly, like
yeah.
I'm more just sick of working on it than I am sick of playing it. I love playing my own game. I don't know if that makes me kind of vain.
No, not at all.
It would happen constantly. Where like I'm like, yeah, I gotta test this one thing that I made a change to, and I would start playing the game to see how it plays through, and I would play right past the thing I meant to test, and I'd be like, ah, crap, I gotta go back and try that again. I'm wasting so much time here.
That's the thing. That's yeah.
Yeah, I love playing it. It's just it's fun to me. Like, it's probably not the best shmup ever, but it is just entertaining. I think it crosses somewhere in that like that difficulty of most other shmups to like more casual ones. It just kind of feels somewhere nice in the middle. And I say that having not seen anyone play Stage 5 or 6 yet.
Really, not seen anyone play it yet. Okay, wow.
Yeah, like I believe there was 2 different people who streamed it earlier today, and I unfortunately missed those streams. But I don't know if they got to 5 or 6. But you know, I'm the one who's played it, so it could be really hard, and I have no idea.
Well, let's find out. I mean, I know that I am playing really bad here right now, but I have gotten to Stage 4 on One Life mode in the past. People are just going to have to take my word for that. Yeah, although technically I did actually do it on stream, but I mean, I didn't save it or anything. So, but some people will have seen it. You know, it is real. I know I'm doing bad just now though. But I feel like maybe a part of that is just because I know that it's free credit mode. You know what I mean? Like when there's less jeopardy, then you just feel like, I don't know.
Yeah, I do the same thing when I play on free play. Like, I end up dying 5 or 6 times on, like, you know, the boss you're about to get to. I'll get there and blow through, like, 5 or 6 different deaths, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, like... but also, just the whole on-stream and talking thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing how many bosses you actually have here. I mean, there are 2 bosses every level, and actually 3 bosses on 1 level, I gather, based on the maths. And yeah, like, yeah, it's amazing. I don't want to ask you about your influences again, because we've already sort of gone over it, but...
You know, one influence I usually don't talk about, and this actually, I think it's going to be in my, I don't say think, I know it's going to be in my booth. I mentioned that I get a bit of my narrative direction from a German heavy metal band that I'm a huge fan of, called Iron Savior.
Okay, I've never personally heard of them, but yeah.
Yeah, if you get familiar with their you know, they're a concept band. Like, their whole shtick is about the same story. And if you go through it and listen to it, or just read the lyrics, or even I think they have like a plot synopsis on their website. It's like, oh, okay, I see where Bo's getting a lot of this information from. You know, it's not a ripped off story, but there's a lot of inspiration taken from it.
No, that's okay. It's just when you say like German metal band and they have like a lore story on their website, I'm like, whoa, like. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Metal is it's super fun. It's my favorite genre. So I mean, if you can't tell by my music influences in this game, it's super fun.
Oh yeah. Oh, we can definitely tell. Look, I was a proper like mosher. Like that's what they called us in the UK. In the early 2000s, like the term was mosher. I was into like, you know, nu metal or whatever. Like that's just what was in at the time, right? As I've become older, I have become more into just general sort of alternative music, regardless of whether it's rock or whatever. But no, yeah, look, I get you, man. I was a mosher. I mean, I've seen Korn live in concert and Slipknot and
yeah.
They
do Mayhem Fest out here in the States near Chicago. And I remember one of the years I went there. I was at the, you know, when I first got into metal, I was a big Dragon Force nerd, and went to Mayhem Fest to go see Dragon Force. But the headliner was Slipknot, and we stuck around for a little bit of that. And they did this whole thing where like they bolted the drummer's set to like the floor, and then flipped him upside down, and he was drumming upside down. The thing was nuts.
Wow, I never saw that. Like I've seen Slipknot twice. And I never saw the upside down part. They never had that in their set at the time. I saw them on the tour for their first album, and then also the tour for their second album. But I never saw that. That sounds crazy. That's incredible.
It was gnarly.
And like, I mean, Deftones. I'm just thinking of various metal bands that I've seen throughout the years now. But yeah, I get you, man. I get you. Like I was as a teen. It's just that as I've gotten older, I've become more sort of laid back. But that's just me. I still respect the metal. And
there's a band I got into kind of more recently, and my coworker got heavy into it too, called Unleash the Archers, and we had tickets to go see their show just before everything shut down. That got canceled like the week before the show.
Okay.
That was really disappointing for me.
Yeah. Just a little trick, right? I know that I am playing this game really badly right now, and I do apologize for that. But like a little tip, by the way, is that you can change what power up you receive by using the sort of deflect ability next to the power up. Yeah, like you change what the power up is. I know that obviously you know this, you programmed it.
Yeah.
But it's something that I've seen a lot of people not necessarily know. Yeah, like I've heard them say, "Oh, the power ups are random," and it's like, well, not really. You can control them.
Yeah, at one point they kind of semi were the little red supply freighters that drop them cycle through, or they used to cycle through 3 power-ups, and the lights would indicate which one they would drop when they were destroyed, but there was no indication of like how much health they had. So I just figure, make it a little bit easier, give the players a bit more control and let them change the power-up as need be.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it's really good. Like, I remember I played the game for ages not knowing that was the case, and then when I figured it out, it changed everything. Which was,
It makes everything feel a lot more accessible, because then, like, if you've got 2 shot and you're in between bosses, you have an opportunity to pick up 2 bombs, and that's going to help, if you use those bombs on the boss, that's going to help speed up your clear time and get more points.
I am super proud of some of my previous clear times. Like, again, I'm aware that I'm playing this terribly right now, but previous to resetting progress, I did have some good scores, and I will get there again. It's just the way it works when you're talking to someone. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And I'm sure that everyone watching this will be going and playing this dream, like, within Dreams, like, as soon as they see it, because this is incredible. You see, this is one of those dreams where, like, honestly, if you watch someone play this, you wouldn't even know that they were playing Dreams. You wouldn't.
It's funny because, like, I've heard. I think it was when this got on the Media Molecule stream. Whenever this first showed up, and somebody made that comment, and I was like, I wonder if that's because of the camera. It's just so far back.
It's an interesting point. I don't think it is, though. I think there's more to it. Like, it's the whole game, man. It's the whole game. Like, it's incredible. This just looks like a really proper arcade shmup. Like, I could have been playing this on an arcade machine in a Chinese takeaway in Edinburgh in the early 2000s. It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun for me to make too. Like, I didn't start into this thinking like I'm going to get a lot of people to play this game. It's my thought process was I just want to make a game that I want to play, and that was kind of where it went. Like, so I kept changing things like, all right, what do I consider my standard for how things should work? And one of the first things I wanted to nail down was how the ship moves around. Just because that's so important for these kind of games, that the controls feel tight, that they feel nimble, that the speed feels correct. And I've had a few comments somewhere along the way, people saying like, I wish the ship was a little bit faster. Which I think 2 or 3 different occasions I've gone through and tweaked the speed on the ship so it does react a little bit better. And then from there it's just like, what do I like having in these games? I like seeing power-ups. I like being able to use the bombs. Notably in this game, what's different from a lot of other shmups is that the bombs don't cover the whole screen. And part of that is because, like, we've got this parry mechanic in here that allows you a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more movement, right? And then the bombs themselves, along with destroying enemy shots and destroying enemies, they also feed into your Gemini charge. So I felt like there was enough there that, like, it doesn't need to cover the whole screen. It can just take up that really targeted area that you fly by.
Okay, yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's an interesting design decision, and it is genuinely, it works. It's really cool. Seriously, I'm so embarrassed about how bad I'm doing here. But it's just the way it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
If you want, after this, we could do like 20 minutes of silence and see how well you do.
Well, yeah, definitely. So, like, what is your favorite specific part about the entire game? Like, if that doesn't give anything away, I mean, what's your favorite sort of thing? Or do you have anything in particular which, you wish that people would notice more and they have not necessarily noticed yet, or anything like that, you know?
I don't know that there's a whole lot not noticed. I mean, I added some stuff in since the other game. Like, I've got the achievements in there with the little lore dumps attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure entirely how that's going to be received. I wanted to create a bit of a narrative, but I didn't want to interrupt the gameplay. So I'm like, I'll make it tied to the achievements. You can worry, you can read it at your leisure when you get back to the start screen. So it'd be cool, like, see what people think of that. But, it could be a dumb story and I just don't know it. Like, I'm a fan of my own stuff, which, once again, is a little vain, but, have a little bit of pride in what you work in, right?
It's not vain, yeah, it's totally fine. It's not vain at all.
I mean, my favorite part is actually the level you just cleared. I absolutely love playing through stage 4.
Okay. Do you find that that's like the perfect balance between like action and difficulty, or is it something else? Like,
I think it's because it feels more like a dance to me. Especially in that second half where you've got, I call them laser anchors, those guys that just kind of fire the lasers and you can't destroy with normal shots. You have to parry the laser and shoot that back at them. That's the only way to kill them, or by bombing them. The way everything's organized in there, it almost feels like once you get the flow of it, you understand where the enemies are. Like, it just feels like you're just floating in between encounters while subtly dodging things. It's, and the music. I'm really tied into the music there.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm going to have to pay more attention to that when I'm playing it next. Because, that's really interesting to hear that it's like a dance. I love the idea of a dance in a boss battle. It's something I've always been into. As a fan of like Metal Gear Solid and stuff, it's always kind of like the similar in that kind of. I don't know.
Yeah,
like
there's a rhythm to it. Like, it's, not necessarily beat for beat, but like you're kind of, you're dancing a little bit. You're tangoing around.
Exactly. It's amazing.
And I saw some forum posts too, like, a shmup level should feel like you're dancing a little bit, and I kind of tried to go off of that, like, if an enemy deploys here and goes this way, because the player ship can only shoot forward, they're going to try and get in front of it, so that means the ship's going to be about here when something else comes out. Assuming that the player went for what you're going for. So you can kind of steer people around a little bit that way, which is kind of neat, and there might be better ways to get through the level that I just haven't planned for.
Well, exactly. You can only plan for so much. I mean, I know that this has been in early access for a while. I mean, have there been any recent changes to the previous levels? Or is it such that you feel like once a level is released, then that's like the level perfect?
Oh no, I've gone through and changed each level different ways quite a bit. I think, like, the reason it took so long to get these last two levels out is because I was doing like a whole cleansing, I guess, going through the entire game and like what can improve here. Is this timing a little bit off? Does this guy need to take more damage or less damage, or does fire rate need to be adjusted? Stage 1, for instance, the original intent of that first boss of Rook was to sort of force teach the parry mechanic. Like, you're not getting through that fight unless you understand how to use the parry mechanic. And initially, that fight, you couldn't damage the boss without that aperture opening up. And I discovered, like, watching people play the game, streamers have been super helpful for figuring out how a game is supposed to be played, or how a game is played, I should say.
This boss fight's amazing, by the way. I'm loving this. I know I'm doing terrible, guy, but I love it. This is,
This guy goes from order to chaos real fast. But yeah, so that first boss, like, I made it so that he could just be damaged whenever, because the point is that you learn the parry mechanic through that heat-seeking death ball. And it fires regardless of whether or not it takes damage constantly or if it takes damage only at set times. So it just kind of made sense to, remove that barrier for new players. Just make it so it can be damaged whenever. You can kind of like force your way through it.
That sound effect as I defeated the boss was incredible. That scream.
Oh, thank you.
I really loved that. Was that Keeley or was that or I don't know.
That was I think that was the Choir of Tom, and I just tweaked the hell out of it.
It sounded amazing, man. I really loved it.
Yeah, I got kind of had a bunch of fun with the sound effects as I started to figure out like what things did what or how I get different effects. Like, things get a lot more sophisticated further down the line because I was just learning the game. Like, stage 1 is like the first thing I legit made in this game. So you get to this point, stage 5 and stage 6. Like, that's more of a summation of everything I've figured out up to this point.
Yeah, I'm starting to notice that. I mean, look, this is stage 5, or stage 6 actually. This is stage 6. And of course, this is my first time. Okay, this is my first time playing Stage 5. And yeah, it's incredible. It's a challenge. This is a tough dream, like, but in a good way. Like, it's, you know, it is good. This is genuinely a top tier shmup. Even if this was not made within Dreams, this would be a top tier shmup. I mean, did you have any game design experience before you came into Dreams, or like, are you just sort of a fan?
More of a fan, like nothing professional. Like, you know, I mentioned before that I had made a shmup in Little Big Planet 2. And you know, it was fun. I learned a few things from that. I mean, it was, you know, it being my first sort of shmup game that I worked on. I made some really cardinal sin errors, like, you know, the ship is constantly moving forward rather than the ship sitting in like a playfield with the stage moving through it. So, you know, I did stuff like that. I made it so like the shooting the gun was tied to how many times you press the button, because I was a really big fan of Devil May Cry back then.
Okay,
so I was like, yeah, it makes sense. If you can tap the button real fast, you can shoot real fast, right? But it's exhausting after a full level.
It definitely is. And
yeah,
thank you for
really
not having that. Yeah.
You know, so I didn't really have any game design experience aside from that. Like, I've done some stuff with pen and paper RPGs. Like, I've got a gaming group that I play video games with, and we jump into an RPG every once in a while. And I made a whole Mad Max setting for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So, you know, not necessarily video game related, but there's a bit of game design built into that, right? Like you know, the end user experience. But more or less, this is kind of like my first ever completed game.
Yeah, and I think that that's quite exceptional. Like, I thought, you know, honestly, like, to go from not really making games to making this, it's incredible. It honestly is.
Yeah, and I had a lot of help working on this thing. Like, you know, I thanked Kutaya and that one thing about the Stage 4 playthrough, because, you know, I had no idea how difficult Stage 4 was until he played through it, and I was like, wow, a lot of this is really unfair.
That's good. Again, like, it shows the importance of seeing people play your games. Like, playtesting, ultimately. But obviously, how do you get playtesting done when you're, like, a person in a thing like Dreams? You know, it shows the importance of Twitch and stuff, though.
Yeah. So these next two boss fights, whenever people get to them, I apologize. The first one's not too bad, but that second one's probably going to mess with you.
Oh dear. I'm doing terrible. I'm doing terrible, but that's just me. Again, I'm hopeful that eventually I will be able to do this entire game in one credit.
And it's totally doable. Like, I mean, not to, you know, I made the game, so I should be able to do it, but I have completed my game in Ace. It's doable.
It totally is. I can see why it is as well. Because I have mastered, well, doesn't look like it, but I have mastered some of the early stages in the past. And I know I will get back to that at one point. But it's interesting, because I was deliberately waiting until the full game came out before sort of diving back into it as such. I mean, have you found any problems as like an early access developer on Dreams? Do you find a lot of people sort of play your game and then just ignore it, or I don't know? I don't know. I'm just curious what your experience has been.
Well, based on like what I get from in Dreams, you know, I had that big push of people back in between like January and kind of midway into March. And then after that, it kind of became like a trickle. Like, I think people kind of stopped coming to it. You know, and that might be like, you know, there was only so much to play, or it wasn't finished. Like, you know, I'm like that myself. Like, I don't like getting into early access games because I don't want to get sick of a game before it's kind of reached the designer's like vision, right? So I'd rather wait and, you know, play the game as it's intended. You know, when it's further along the way. And so that might be the case for some people. You know, it might just be because, you know, it's a shmup. There's only so much you can really do with it besides just play the same levels over and over again. And that's really as far as I can tell for that stuff.
No, it's okay. It's going to be interesting seeing who tops the scoreboards now that there's a full release, because if people have been playing it like all throughout early access, then I imagine they've gotten really good. That's a really cool mechanic, by the way. I love the fact that like these things are constantly surrounding me and they're going to send in things like to the beat, and I have to just be ready for it.
So this is the one I think, like, you know, if people get here on Ace, this will be the thing that ends people's runs.
Yeah, definitely. However, repeat runs will get them the win. So,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
I mean, so you know, I've fought this thing enough times on my own, and it took me a long time to be able to beat it. Like, you know, with just 3 lives, because that timing can get rough if you're not used to it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
like, you know, now that I play through it, like I get to this guy on pace, I'm like, alright, I know how to do this guy, no worries.
Exactly. And it is incredible. It shows the amount of like complexity and depth that the stream actually has. Like you could spend hours and hours playing the stream, like legitimately hours and hours, the same way that you could play Ikaruga for hours and hours, or anything else for hours and hours. It's incredible. It really is. And again, like massive, you know, congratulations on this.
Thank you. No, I'm just glad people like it so much. Like having people who are such big fans of it. Like I know designing a number of these things. Me and Keely were sitting here like, I'd make a boss and show her, and she'd be like, I can't wait to hear All-Star's expression to it.
Okay. Wow.
or you know, other people like
Yeah.
time I saw a number of streamers go through and fight the sub boss on stage 2, Nihilist. I had a lot of fun with that because people's usual reactions were, whoa. And that's just so fun to me.
Final boss, okay. Final boss. Look, I have not been able to keep an eye on chat because I have just been so busy playing this. But if there has been any questions from chat, well, I mean, feel free to talk to the people in chat, honestly. Like,
yeah.
You know, I've not been able to keep up with it, man. But if you have been able to, then, I mean, what have people been saying in general?
This is cool, I guess. I actually have been watching it myself too. I'm like pacing around my living room and not watching the TV.
That's okay. Sorry. Don't mean for it to be that stressful for you, man.
You're good. It's how I talk. My mom calls me and I pace around the living room.
No, I get the feeling. Yeah. Well, look. Yeah.
Okay, we do. I was asking what some of your favorite shmups might be. Some like the ones that I got really into was Lightning Force back on the Sega Genesis. And I got really into Raiden for a while. I had this game on one of my old laptops called Chorunsha 68K, and it is just—it's just a chaotic, fun, fast game.
Cool.
You know, it was kind of an interesting game too because like it's got the mechanics are pretty basic. You shoot a lot of bullets. It almost feels like the player itself is a bullet hell instead of like fighting a bullet hell. And the background is just the same thing over and over and over again, but the music changes. And it was just like another one of those good like this feels like a dance type shoot 'em ups. I recently got into playing games on the Switch, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. Ikaruga's very obvious thing to pick up on there. That game is just so good. Although I play it on easy because I don't like when things fire bullets back at me in giant shotgun blasts. But
yeah.
You know, to each their own. Like I have fun on easy. Some people have fun on normal. That's why the difficulties are there.
Oh, exactly. Like I'm thinking of like Resogun off the top of my head, which I think is fantastic, right? But when you play it on the hardest difficulty, every time you kill an enemy, they just explode bullets that fire straight at you, and it's like, oh, come on, give me a break. Like,
like, what do you want me to do here?
Yeah, like every single enemy does. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and some of the fights later on in that game too, you gotta have such precision that I'm like, I don't know how people do this. And then you go online and somebody's doing it with both control sticks and an arcade, and you're like, alright, okay, sure, fine.
It's amazing though. It's incredible that people can do that, and I seriously hope that people discover Starfighter Gemini. I'm going to do everything I can to promote it. I think it's fantastic. This is legitimately.
I appreciate that.
If this was not made within Dreams, you would not know. You genuinely would not know that this was made in Dreams. You know. It's incredible.
Wow, what else? I'm trying to think what else I played. I know, like. God, back when I was in high school, me and my friend across the street played this game called Chicken Invaders, which is like Space Invaders but with chickens. I wouldn't necessarily call it so much of a shmup, but it was it was a fun little like dodge bullets or eggs in that case game. God, what else did I play? I got on my Switch. I got a Ghostblade HD, which is a lot of fun. I think it's a little visually busy, so I don't play it too much. Like I got my little flip grip for the Switch, so that makes it easier.
Well, that's cool. I love the way that music just changed there. What's happening? This is my first time completing the game, man. What's going on?
I'm just gonna let you sit through it for a minute. I'm gonna preface this too. Like I am not an animator in Dreams. Most of my stuff sits still.
There's nothing wrong with that though. Everyone has different skills. Like, I believe that it's only truly with collaboration that like people can like grow and, you know, make amazing things. I mean, that's wrong obviously to a certain extent because you've made this on your own and it's incredible. But you know what I mean though? Like, you know,
Yeah.
everyone has different skills, so it's only, you know, no one should fear a collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and you know, I'm probably end up like the next time I do a project, I'm probably gonna have to look into that a bit more, like working with others. Just because this one, like, you know, I had been furloughed, so I had all the time in the world to work on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've gone back to work full time, so it's a lot harder to like, you know, sit down and really dig into finishing or completing a project that requires a bit more time.
This is amazing, by the way. I'm just sucking this in with the music and stuff. Like, I'm figuring out what's happening. Is this like a new game plus or what? I'm just waiting.
Oh, you know, I was thinking about doing that. Just rolling it over, like, all right, here you go, stage 1 again.
See, look, Girl from Croydon has just said in the chat that they're here now. Hello, Girl from Croydon. Yeah, look, Girl from Croydon, I'm sure that you're already aware, is like a big maker of great shmups within Dreams themselves.
Yeah, no, she's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, were you aware of their work, like, throughout the development of this, or is it something you discovered later on? I mean, you know, I imagine there's a certain kinship there, as people who make shmups within Dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was aware of her work before I really got too deep into, you know, like I jumped into Dreams and I started kind of going straight into create mode, and somewhere along the line, I was probably like, hey, I should see what else is out there, and, you know, her games kept popping up, and they were just fantastic. And I was like, you could do this in Dreams? kind of kept me going for those first couple of levels.
That's awesome. I'm just taking a photo of that result screen there. Look, I can do a lot better. I know I can do a lot better, but we just had to get through it. Yeah, like, it's fine.
Yeah, so that's basically it. That's the 6 stages. That's the ending. Like, my life's work is done. I'm gonna go home.
Now, like, I mean, what do you sort of... It's a tough question, okay? But what do you like the most about Dreams? And I guess also, potentially, what do you like the least? Like, just, I don't know, man. Like, what have you found with working on Dreams? Yeah.
This is kind of an easy question for me. So the thing I really like about Dreams is how you have all the tools, like, just right there. Like, you know, if I were to go over to Unity and work on this thing, you know, I'd have to go out to a different program to make the graphics and then import those over so that they animate into, like, you know, Unity or a different engine. I'd have to find someone who knows what they're doing with sound, because I don't. I only know how to do it because this thing makes it easy. Same thing with music. I had never touched music before I jumped into this thing. Like, I don't know a damn thing about making music. I just, like,
Seriously?
you know, I know what I like, how it sounds. Yeah.
You made all of these tracks and you didn't really know about music beforehand? Because seriously,
Yeah,
look at
like-
this, people.
like
Look at this entire soundtrack here. This is incredible. Like, it's wonderful. You've just heard it all. I know as a bed of music, but this soundtrack is worth listening to in and of itself. Like, seriously.
Thanks. Yeah, so I started on it. I don't, you know, like I said, I don't know what a measure is. I'm like, just throw down notes. Like, what are major and minor keys? And you know, as I'm working on this, like, Keely played the violin. She sung in a choir. She knows some music stuff. So you know, I'd work on something, and she would come home from work, and I'd be like, hey, give this a listen to, and I would play it for her. And she'd be like, that note's sour. Okay, how do I make it not sour?
What does sour mean?
Just kind of became that.
I suppose just wrong, bad. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, just It's, you know, it's not what it's supposed to be.
Fair enough.
So it was a lot of that. You know, my favorite thing to make with the music was the boss loops. I love making the boss loops because it's just this short, truncated, like, you know, beat thing of drum. Like, the drums are my favorite to work with because it's just, you know, there's 8 buttons. I do different things. Go.
I can't
So,
believe,
yeah, that was-
like, I mean, I can believe it, obviously, like, I do believe you, but honestly, like, the soundtrack is so good that to think that you didn't make music before Dreams and yet you made this, it's incredible. And I know that you're not the only one. There are a lot of people who did not make music before Dreams who do make music now, and the music that they make is incredible, and I'm not trying to be a salesman here, but I do think it's fantastic that that it can give that power to people.
Yeah, and I think that's easily what I like most about Dreams is everything's just right there. So like I wanted to sit down and make this shmup. Like, technically I didn't need anyone else to work on it. I just needed time, and that's what I had. So I played with it. So I mean that's really cool. And then aside from just making games in it, Dreams is kind of like this neat venue of weird ideas that people can have. Like, you don't have to have a group approve like this is what our game's going to be about. This is the kind of mechanics we're going to use. Like, you just as a person can be like, I have this crazy idea for a game. Let's see how it goes.
Exactly. You can just mess around. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you end up with a lot of weird ideas that might not have seen an official release on Steam or somewhere, but it's all this unique, weird stuff just shows up on Dreams for anyone to access for what's the selling point on Dreams? Like $10, $20, $30? Like, that's cheap.
As far as I am concerned, right, this game is good enough that it could easily be like a thing for sale outside of Dreams. You know what I mean? Like, it could be. It's good enough, and that's a massive compliment to you and the skill that you've shown in making it. It's fantastic stuff. I've definitely bought games on Steam in a sale that have not been as good as this. Like, seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's games I've spent $60 on and played an hour of.
Yeah. It's incredible, and it's a testament to yourself, and it's a testament to Dreams. I mean, I was going to ask at one point, out of all the games you could have made, why make this one? But it's clear that you're just a fan of shmups, right? I mean, why make any other type of game? Yeah, exactly.
As I mentioned before, I'm a huge fan of the Soulsborne games. And what is the Soulsborne games have a lot of stuff that's it's unique to RPGs, unique to action games, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot tied into those kind of games as with shmups. It's pattern memorization, it's timing, it's movement. That crushing difficulty of I don't know how to do this now, but if I keep trying at it, I'm going to get better at it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Most games in general, but I feel like they're just very closely entwined. Like the first time I played Dark Souls, I was like, okay, this is, it feels a little rough, but man, is this my kind of thing?
Exactly. Once you get to grips with it, you feel that flow, and you just get into it, and it's really good. It's really good. I know this is going to be the same now the full game's out. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I'm planning on if I'm gonna keep making things in Dreams. I like this thing. It's fantastic. So I mean, I'm probably gonna stick with working on shmups until I get tired of working on shmups. So.
Well, I personally hope that you never get tired of working on shmups. As a long-time fan of shmups and as a fan of everything you've done so far, I mean, feel free to obviously make whatever you want to make in any genre, but I would love to see what you do next after Starfighter Gemini.
I got a couple ideas. I'm trying to sort through if I want to start another longer project or go into something shorter and goofier. I tossed around the idea of making a Starfighter Gemini pinball game.
Okay, that would be amazing. Yeah, that would be amazing to see.
A parry or something.
Yeah, and of course, look, knowing you, having not made anything previous to this and just going in and straight on making this, you're probably going to make your own pinball. But there are actually lots of really cool pinball templates and stuff out there. Because it's always just worth reminding people of that. You don't have to make everything by yourself, from scratch. You can just take a template and mix stuff around, and then that's really cool as well.
Yeah, and like I said before, I've got that time constraint of I have to work 40 hours a week now, so looking at templates is probably going to be much more in my future.
Okay, yeah, that's unfortunate. Real life gets in the way now, right? Yeah.
Why can't I just be creative 100% of the time?
But you've shown an exceptional talent here. Is there anything within Starfighter Gemini, right, that you think is really neat that nobody really notices? I'm just wondering. I don't know. There must be something. If there's not, it's not a problem. It's just, it's interesting.
I don't know. Cause I feel like I've been so close to this thing for so long that I'm I don't know what's interesting. The stage scrolls past you, I guess. That's kind of cool. And, the stage 2, the orbital elevator, is just one big emitter essentially that's just popping out these giant tunnels that run off of variables for their movement and depth. That's about, that's all that is.
That sounds pretty neat to me. I've been too focused on chatting to you to really pay attention to the specific mechanics there as we play through it. But that sounds pretty neat to me. I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on it.
And I think one of the things I'm most curious about with people on how they intercept this is I laid out a bit of a story, and I think it's kind of neat. We just watched through it. It's a big old causal paradox.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of cool, but people can get really specific about how time travel works. So some people might look at that and go that's dumb, that's a cop-out, and some people might be like, well, that's deep.
I think it's really cool. I think it's awesome. I'm noticing ultra wide lols Jeff in the chat. I'm guessing that's Drummond 7 Jeff. Are they just your friend helping you playtest it and stuff, or what was their involvement?
Jeff is one of my lifelong friends. He's gonna be the best man at my wedding.
Awesome.
He's a super fantastic sound guy. Life is busy, so he doesn't get much of a chance to jump in here and mess with things too much. But a lot of the sounds in stage 2 that were kind of wimpy at first, he tweaked and made really cool. For instance, Nihilus pops out these little canisters, and then those pop and explode. And that sound before kind of sounded like a firecracker because I just know what to do with it. And he went in and made this nice, deep, bassy poof noise.
Wow.
Same with Termite. He messed with some of the sound effects that come off of Termite's guns, and they were just fantastic. So he really stepped up the depth of how those bosses feel.
That sounds really cool, man. And it's amazing to have friends who are willing to help out as well. It's incredible. So massive shout out to Ultra Wide Jeff.
Me and him used to play a lot of Little Big Planet 2. So he played my old. I'm pretty sure he played my old one that I made on Little Big Planet 2.
Yeah, see, I'm starting to wish that I had been familiar with your work on that. I did also play Little Big Planet and Little Big Planet 2. Now, possibly I did play your work, but I just don't remember it. It's one of those things, it was so long ago. It would be interesting to potentially revisit for someone one day who is still playing Little Big Planet.
It'd be kind of neat. Even just revisiting the previous steps of Starfighter Gemini as I was working on it. I've got a bunch of YouTube videos that are unlisted that are just early development stuff of what I've been going through. And so, a couple days ago, we're like, all right, this game's really close to being finished. Me and Keely, we're sitting here going through YouTube, let's watch some of the old videos. How did it used to look? And it's fun looking at those changes. One of the earlier videos, I actually put it on Reddit because I wasn't aware there was such a big Twitter community because I just never used Twitter before this. And
I remember, I think I messaged you on PSN, and then maybe within half an hour you had a Twitter account or something. I don't know.
Twitter, and I was like, I gotta get engaged with these people.
It's really cool. It shows the importance of things like this, right? I don't know. I think sometimes it can be underestimated how important this sort of thing is. We might not have hundreds or thousands of viewers, but the viewers that we do have are important. You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway. Blah. Yeah.
I gotcha. One of the earlier versions of this too, the one that I put on Reddit, the UI was real rough back then, and I unfortunately can't remember his name. But there's a guy who, and he commented on my Twitter a couple days ago too. But he made a comment of all this feedback about the UI and how this is too busy or this is not clear, or you get a lot of feedback about that sort of stuff, and that really fed into sort of completely revitalizing the way the UI looks. I went to college for illustration. I got to have a BFA in illustration, and so one of the things you go through a lot in college when you're in an art course is you learn how to receive feedback gracefully. And that really helped in this thing's development. This thing wouldn't be half as good if I didn't look at somebody's advice and just go, you know what, that's actually really smart. Or if I kick back against what somebody said, this thing would probably be half as polished as it is. You know, I got so much good feedback from people playing it, from watching streamers, from having my nephew live test it. There wouldn't be health bars for the bosses if my nephew hadn't made the suggestion for it.
That's amazing. And yeah, look, I mean, little shout out. Oh, I just died. Oh dear. Yeah. I mean, I know Keld Beyonds has been playing it a lot on his stream as well, right, throughout early access.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that feedback's helped a lot as well. And anyone else you want to shout out, feel free. Like,
Yeah, well, honestly, any of the streamers who like go through and play games and make comments on them, like I think some people might like look into it and go like, he's just being a little harsh, a little rough, like it's just a silly little game. But like that information really feeds back to the creator to better make things, and it's really important to have that live feedback, that live input.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. It's incredible. I'm so glad that that you found the community and that you've engaged with the community so well.
Yeah, me too. It's been real fun.
Yeah, cool.
Like, yeah, I get to see cool stuff on Twitter all the time. Like, I get, today has just been like my phone's constantly blowing up with Twitter notifications, and that's just been a fun day for me.
Now, Keely, like, we don't, you don't have to mention any companies or anything, right? But Keely mentioned earlier in the chat you're like, you work in production, right? In terms of real life, right? Like, has there been any major challenges in, like, sort of changing from production to development as such? Obviously, I work with producers and stuff, so, I maybe understand, like, yeah.
So I'm a production artist for a company that owns and operates arcades. I'm not going to go any deeper into,
That's okay, that's okay, yeah.
That's the idea. By, like, arcades, I mean, like, family entertainment centers. Like, you go into a hotel and there's an arcade near the lobby. Like, we operate those, and we do those really well.
Mm-hmm.
And so my part in that is that I design graphics for the games. Like, if we need replacement graphics, me and my coworker make those. We'll design them, we'll print them off, we'll laminate them if we need to, we'll ship them off to location. Sometimes we do bigger projects, like we need big vinyl banner somewhere, we have to design and produce that vinyl banner in our print shop. My boss is the director of design and construction services for our company, so and he's an incredibly honest person, which is very valuable in a creative field. Even just like this week, he came in with this emergency project for us to do, me and my coworker to do, and we went back and forth with him on several iterations on, this thing that we're working on. And if we give him something, and he'd come back and say like, all right, this color's not working because it looks like a stop sign, or I'm not really feeling this, or this feels like two different signs, or something like that. So we get like a lot of that honest, like, back and forth feedback to make the best possible thing.
That sounds. I mean, it sounds great. It sounds important. I mean, and it shows that you've obviously learned from that to take into your game development. And
that's the point I was trying to get back around to with that is like him being critical of our work has sort of given me an intuition. Like, if this, if I don't think something is working, then it's probably not working. Go fix it.
No, that's cool. Is there any specific element of Starfighter Gemini that you are like most proud of? Like, I don't know, like, yeah. Is there, like, a most proud moment of Starfighter Gemini at all?
I think it was the moment I realized that you could tool the parry into deflecting attacks on stage 4.
Okay, wow, yeah.
Because initially, like, right, it was you parry, you charge up the Gemini, it deploys, and that's really all the parry did. Stage 4, stage 3, you find the lasers, but I didn't figure this out until stage 4. If something shoots a laser at you, you parry it, you shoot that right back, and that suddenly opened up, like, I can do so much more with this than I've been doing already. So that's kind of like, that was kind of like my this is a cool game now sort of moment. I've got this neat mechanic that does this other cool thing that plays back or feeds back into gameplay. I'm really happy with how that turned out. And then, you go on to stage 5 and you've got those blade attacks that shoot out at angles to the left and right that play into how you fight the boss later on. Like, it's really cool. To me, anyway. I'm tooting my own horn a little bit.
No, it is really cool. You're not tooting your own horn. It really is really cool. It's okay.
There's a lot of like minor design things that are tried to that I attempted to use to teach players the mechanics, so that when you get to like the bosses later or the harder areas later, those mechanics make sense to you. Like, you know, Termite uses a lot of the purple shots. Before you get to Termite, you're face down with purple shots, so you know when you get to that guy, hey, those things are bad. You know, you parry lasers in the 3rd and 4th stage. When you get to the Spire boss fight and stage 4, you know, hey, these lasers, I can shoot them straight through the boss and damage its health from the get-go without breaking the shell down first.
Oh,
and
genuinely.
That plays into, like, how those Inkyus use.
Yeah, like the way that this game is designed is incredible. Like it has such a gradual build-up in terms of the skills that you learn. It really is masterful stuff.
Yeah, when I set out with this, like I knew I wanted to do 6 stages on this thing, right? So I started mapping out like, all right, what's the point of each stage? Like aside from just being like a set piece, like the normal elevator, or you know, being on the moon or something. Like, what am I trying to teach to the player on each stage? Like, what am I trying to emphasize on each thing? And so I kind of mapped it out, and I broke it down to like one thing per level. Like, you know, stage 1, the first, you know, what I want to teach the player is the parry mechanic, and that's what the first and 2nd boss are sort of meant to instill into you. Like, you know, you can't get through them without mastering that parry mechanic, or at least getting enough used to it well enough that you don't lose all your lives.
That's amazing to
you know,
hear, because, like, yeah, you thought, like, each stage, what are we teaching? Wow.
You know, stage 2 was, you know, that's when you get the purple shots introduced. That's, you know, what they're meant to teach. The last boss really emphasizes that with his attacks. You know, probably not as much as it should, to be honest, but, you know, I liked how Termite played out enough that I was like, he's fine. You know, we'll also say this level's for speed. Like, lots of things move faster on stage 2. You know, initially stage 3 was supposed to be about like making deadly terrain. Like if, you know, early on, you know, the previous build of this thing had that big red wall that you could fly into and die off of.
Okay, yep, I think I remember, yeah.
Yeah, so that, you know, that used to be there, and watching people stream, they would just not realize that you can die on that thing. Even though it was like big and red, it just didn't register because it wasn't a normal part of gameplay, and it didn't really like jive with me as well, so I took that red wall out. You know, and somewhere along the way, I think like the point of stage 3 sort of just kind of fell through. It just kind of became like, you know, there's some cool boss fights in here, have fun. Stage 4 is all about them lasers. You know, stage 5 is sort of like combining everything you've learned up to that point. Like there's lasers in there, there's purple shots in there, there's, you know, enemies that dive bomb the screen, there's a new type of attack you can bounce back. A lot of that stage is based around those blades bouncing out and being used against them.
Yeah. Sorry, I died again.
Yeah,
right. Sorry, I wasn't sure how much of a delay you were on, but yeah. It happened. It happened. Yeah.
So I mean, that's more of the progression of it. Like I mean, the last boss. I'm sorry, not the last boss. The whole last stage doesn't really build on anything that you've used, like the lasers, the blades, or anything like that. But a lot of the core mentality is still there of how to approach things. You know, that need to use the parry correctly is much more emphasized there. And that's really the central mechanic. So I was like, these fights got to really be about making sure that central mechanic is like pitch perfect now.
The mechanic really is pitch perfect. I know that I have not been playing in a particularly professional style, but it is perfect. It's wonderful. I cannot overstate enough just how good this is. Honestly, like this is a game that you could buy, and it's just on Dreams. Like it's incredible. Like even the stat screen here that has everything that you've done in terms of the timings of the bosses and your top 6 scores and the stage bests. Like overall, it's incredible.
Yeah, that screen originally started because I couldn't get the scoreboard working back when you guys did High Score Wars.
Sorry.
I can't get that damn thing to work. I gotta get this to work.
Yeah, and of course the achievements as well. It's incredible. Yeah, I hope that getting picked for High Score Wars like gave some attention and promotion and help and stuff as well. Even just in terms of watching people play it and getting feedback, you know.
Yeah, it was great. Like when we knew that was going on, I told Key about it, and so she ran to her computer. I went to mine, and we pulled up all 4 different channels that High Score Wars was going on, and we watched them all at the same time. Like we bounced between the chats. We were so excited about that. Like. You know, and from there I got like all kinds of attention into Starfighter Gemini. So yeah, that definitely helped with a lot of like the exposure and getting the word out there, and you know, getting people excited about it.
Honestly, I'm so like proud and humbled and honoured just to play a little part in that. Like, none of this would exist without you creating Starfighter Gemini. This is all you. But I am proud and humbled to play just a little part in that. Just a little part in it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
And like I said, like having people who really like this game made a big difference in me wanting to go through with it.
It's incredible. I'm just going to have a little look at the scoreboards, okay?
Yeah, go
I'm
for it.
curious. Yeah, I'm curious. Okay, I'm currently number 4. That's not bad. Of course, you yourself are out at the top by a far margin.
I think I'm the only one to play through it all the way so far today.
Yeah.
At least on like veteran or higher. Like
Yeah.
that's a veteran clear score.
Okay, cool. It's just incredible. It really is incredible, honestly. It's fantastic. And as Kataya says in the chat here, watching all of the high score war streams at once is the real Starfighter Gemini. I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it was something. Like I would change who was muted, who I was listening to, which chat I was responding to. I think he was doing the same thing in another room. She recorded it, so I was able to go through like, all right, what's happening here? Who's doing well on this thing? What did that person get hit by? You know, who's responding to what well? It was really cool. Had this command center thing going on of like feedback.
It's okay. It's awesome. Do you have a specific favorite level by any chance? Like, I don't know. Like, I think we might have answered this earlier. I'm just rambling now.
Yeah. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. Stage 4. I absolutely
yeah,
love
stage 4. Of course, we did.
So
yeah,
well.
we did mention that. All apologies. All apologies.
That last boss in stage 4, Sepulcher. I remember having an idea for that fight like months before I got to it. And when I finally made it, I was like, oh man, this turned out exactly how I imagined it. That's so cool. You know, the idea of getting the walls to close in to change the landscape of where you're fighting. You know, the little zigzag pattern. You know, I always meant to kind of go back there. I'm like, I'm going to add in different things, but I think after I made like 5 or 6 different rotations, I was like, honestly, he's fine.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm just throwing a tantrum to Kataya in the chat. That's okay. It's all good. But seriously,
I see JCO4TUs in the chat, man. Like, I don't want to say thanks to you a whole bunch, honestly. Like the scoreboard, he helped me fix that. So the scoreboard works thanks to him.
Okay, that's incredible. Yeah,
and he made some fantastic suggestions to me about like how the different scoring should be paced out, or could be paced or changed to, sort of blend things together better. Like, that's been fantastic feedback, man. Thanks so much.
That's great. I mean, JCO4TU, for anyone who doesn't know, they have made a bunch of awesome stuff within the Dreamverse, ranging from like Monochrome Metronome, which is an incredible Guitar Hero style rhythm game, to well, look, another one that, to be honest, I can't remember the name of off the top of my head, but it is an MM pick and it's also a rhythm game. Hey, JCO4TU, remind me of the name of your other rhythm game MM pick. But like, yeah, JCO4TU does great stuff. And I'm glad that they could help you. So yeah.
Yeah, he was great.
It shows the support from the community and stuff. It's such an incredible thing. Yeah.
Kutaya asked if you could see my edit mode sometime. Yeah, I suppose you could. It's a mess. My design philosophy with working in Dreams isn't really so much a philosophy as it is just like throwing things at the wall and seeing what wires stick to it. It's a rat's nest, and it changes based on the level. Like, stage 1 is way less organized than stage 3, because stage 3 I was like, I should organize this stuff, and nothing is properly elemented out. Like the ship itself isn't an element. There's 6 different iterations of it that I have to go through and make changes to each time I want to make a change to the ship. So like, the time it took to make this thing, probably entirely my fault.
I meant,
but yeah, it'd be cool to show you at some point.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Kataya, look, there's no point showing me. I am terrible in create mode. I'm not a creator. I'm a curator. Hashtag curator's got to curate. Like, nothing that I have ever made in Dreams is any good. But I think that it might be worthwhile to maybe show other people in edit mode sometime. Like other people who are able to analyze it better than I am. Like, that could be a
Yeah.
cool thing. Because, look, I know that
Yeah.
I'm talking to you right now as a, like, you know, a quote-unquote interview. But look, honestly, like, just consider this an audition for potential future interviews. Because, you know, I'm not the best interviewer. Like, I'm not brilliant, man. But I'm sure that other people would love to talk to you about this sort of thing.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. It was a fun journey
Yeah,
making this thing.
exactly. Just honestly, just consider me like a gateway. Because if you want more, I'm sure you can have more. And you know, I'm just here rambling to you as an introduction to interviews. I'm like the gateway man. But like, yeah, this
Yeah.
is the other one that I meant by JCO4TU. This is it. It's on the screen, you know. Sorry, I
Oh,
couldn't remember the name of it, but you know, it's an Olympic rhythm game. So, Rabid Rhythm
I'll have to look
Rockets
that up
is
later,
also
give it a
really
try.
good, actually. Like, I'm starting to
I've
wonder why this isn't an Olympic, because maybe it should be. But
honestly, I need to spend
okay.
way more time playing other people's dreams because, like, you know, I get involved in the project, and every time I go on dreams, like, my point on dreams is to work on my project. So I've gone like almost a whole year without playing a whole lot of people's different dreams, and I really got to get into it more because there's just some fantastic stuff on here.
Yeah, oh, there is. There really is. Like, yeah, I mean, do you... I suppose you just answered it, but you don't play much streams, I suppose, do you? Like other people's streams.
Yeah, not as like
yeah.
you know, I'll find stuff when I'm like going on in dreams. I'm like, hey, that looks cool, and out to my next play or my play queue, and I'm like, I'll go through that every once in a while.
Okay.
But you know, I don't really dream surf as much as I should.
No, look, I understand. If you are more into creating, then you're more into creating, right? I understand. I really do completely understand. But if you ever do want to play things in dreams, like there are a whole bunch of really cool front page playlists now that keep up to date with all of the cool releases.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
a plug,
I did see a
it's
couple of
just the truth,
questions
you know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I
Yeah.
did see a couple questions in chat. I think Hasek
Mm-hmm.
asked about the achievements. Yeah, they're all variables. I have a different variable for each one. I don't use a lot of variables in Starfighter Gemini. It's a relatively simple game.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of leftover variable space, so I'm like, just dump it into achievements. You know, 24, we got that.
Yep. Oh shit! I just dropped my controller. There we go.
Peas and tanks. For the parry, is it 2 absorb shots, or is there another mechanic to it as well? I want to think strategy. It's primarily 2 absorb shots, but it's got 2 other functions. One of which is to change over power-ups. If you see a bomb dropped from a supply freighter and you parry it, it'll switch it to shot, and vice versa. And then it also can be used to bounce attacks back at enemies. Certain attacks, like at stage 3, you start getting into seeing lasers. If you parry that, you absorb it and shoot it back. What else? The blades do that. You can parry those back. Cataphract, when it's got its orbs that bounce around the arenas, you can parry those and you'll just ricochet off of you.
Okay, yeah. Look, I just got a game over with a score of 0. But it's okay. It's okay.
You know,
It's okay.
so there's a weird bug in here that I wasn't sure if anyone would actually end up seeing this.
Okay, yeah, 0,
when this
and
pops up.
apparently I don't have 0. Yeah.
Well, and yeah, there's a 1 there. Where did that come from?
Yeah, where did that
Like,
come from?
I looked through all my logic and I was like, this shouldn't exist. So yeah, I figured nobody's gonna run across it, and then here we are.
That's okay. I'm just about to remind the chat of my interview with Kataya. I do apologise. I'm just, you know, I'm rambling here. I'm just about to post a link to my interview with Kataya. Because, look, BoTheGrand, right? You are the first person I've spoken to on stream, on air, in approximately 6 months. Seriously. Like, and it was all a bit last minute, okay? But you have inspired me to potentially, like, start doing this sort of thing more regularly again.
Yeah, this was fun. You know, who doesn't like talking about the stuff they've made, right?
Exactly, and I do think it's important. Not just for promotion, but also just for, like, generally sort of people getting to know each other within the Dreams ecosystem. Like you mentioned earlier that in your next project you might like to collaborate more. And what better way to get yourself out there? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I think it's important. I do. I stopped doing it because I was a bit worried about doing it, but I don't think there's anything to be worried about. I think we're okay.
No, man, this is fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you're okay with that, man. Honestly, I'm glad you're happy. I'm glad you've had a good time.
Should I bounce through a couple more questions? I see a couple more.
Of course, yeah. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I got a question about if there will be a sequel. I want to make one. I know where it will go.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be another large project, so we'll see if I get to that sometime soon. But I want to.
So, do you think that the next thing you do will be totally unrelated to this? Like, it'll just be a brand new thing?
I think so. I think because like by the time I got done or to the end of working on this thing, I really like. I kind of got my like Steam like I don't know dumped out of me. Like I just. You know, that last cutscene, it's still a little bit rough. Like, there's things in there I want to fix, but I just can't take the drive to it. I'm like, it's good enough. It's done. Just let it go. So, you know, I'll probably do something it's still shmup related, but I don't know that I don't know that it'll be related to Starfighter Gemini. It'll probably be something else. I got a couple ideas bouncing around.
Okay. No, that's awesome. I mean, look, whatever you do, whether it's shmup related or not, I am interested in it. And I'm sure that everyone else will be as well. I can't believe that currently Starfighter Gemini only has 700 thumbs up. It genuinely deserves a lot more.
So there's a comment that someone made in its early days. I think it was the guy's name is Dax Sama or something like that.
I'm scrolling just now. Yeah. Yeah,
he says, this deserves 1K, like, so I'm waiting for this thing to get the 1K so I can go back to him and comment and be like, buddy.
Yep. I will honestly try everything I can to help because it deserves it. It's nothing, like, genuinely, this deserves it, man. You've done an incredible job. There's my own comment. I know there's a delay on your screen, but, like, there's my own. And you replied. Yeah, look, shout out to Talk33, okay? Like, I would have, look, I'm confident that I would have eventually discovered it on my own. However, shout out to Talk33 for being the person who actually did make me aware of it.
And there's Tricks.
And there's Tricks, yeah, and there's Girl from Croydon. Amazing job. I'm going to really enjoy playing this. And again, look, Girl from Croydon, literally... like Creator of the Year nominee and Most Improved Dreamer, and they make incredible shmups. And here's a little teaser: they have Zero Gun coming out soon.
I saw that. I'm excited to give this a try.
Okay, I mean, look, I'm happy to play this on my stream in a little while, and also, I mean, I have done in the past, but like, I'm happy to do it again, and I know they're happy for me to do it as well. If you want to see this, I don't mind playing it. But
go for it. I'd love to see it.
Okay, let's go for it then. Let's go for it. So look, this is Zero Gun. This is in relation to Z Exodus, which is of course from Trix and Joy, the developers of Pollen. I know you're more than familiar with them. They've also been big fans of your work and big supporters of your work.
They've been awesome. Like they're great guys.
Massive shout out to Trix and Joy, and Trix, who has done all of this amazing like metaverse stuff, like curation work lately. Like seriously, massive shout out for that because it's amazing stuff. But look, I may as well give Zero Gun a go. Have you seen this before, or?
I've seen what she's posted on Twitter for it, and I remember thinking like, God, this looks incredible.
Okay, cool. So here we go. I'm just gonna play it for as long as I can before I die. Yeah, because I will die. That is the one guarantee. Like.
So like when I say that Starfighter Gemini is a simple game, this is what I mean. Like, how did she do this?
Well, yeah. I mean, well, yeah. In theory, it's the same stuff, though, right?
Background.
Yeah, no, I know.
Mean, same, I think same gameplay philosophies, but like there's just a lot to the game dev stuff that I'm like, I don't know how to even begin with some of this. Like, look at that.
Game over. Oh my god. Like, that's the worst I've ever done. That is genuinely the worst I've ever done. I'm not exaggerating. Like, but fair enough. Let's go again.
Yeah, and Croydon's UI is top notch. Like, this stuff is slick.
It really is. I mean, this is Resogun. Basically, you know what I mean? This really is Resogun, but with Red Exodus. Like, it's incredible. Yeah. And it's cool. Even faster than Resogun. It's like Resogun on the hardest difficulty. except enemies don't explode. Yeah, it's incredible. Because it is hard. It really is hard. But we're going to get better at it as time goes on. And as we're not on stream. Yeah, I cannot wait for this to come out. And for Tricks and Joy's next release to come out, Z Exodus. Yeah, it looks really cool.
I think it's going to be a good year of stuff in Dreams.
Yeah, every year gets better. Because everyone learns more year upon year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. But look, I'm genuinely not here as a salesman. I'm here as a fan. Like, honestly, man, like, I was doing this stuff even before I do what I do nowadays. So, seriously.
No, I'm there with you.
Yeah, sometimes people are a bit like, oh no, you're just like the man now. And it's like, I'm not the man. I mean, technically I am the man, but also I'm not the man. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. It's an amazing job that you've done. We're on exactly 700 thumbs up at the moment, which is really cool. It seems like a little milestone of sorts. Have there been any more questions from the chat? Or, sorry, I'm just, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I got my glass of bourbon here to celebrate, so...
That's all good. I'm on the rum and orange juice, so you're fine. See, I used to drink rum and coke, right? Recently, I've gone to the rum and orange juice, and I feel it's so much better for the hangovers. I suppose it's because, like, orange juice is at least a little bit good for you. Like, you know, with rum and coke, it's like both of the things are bad. But with rum and orange juice, at least only half of the things are bad.
Yeah, right. The other half is, you know, one side is just juice, and one side is bottled happiness.
Yeah. It works. Like, it works.
Let's see here. I think so. Keely's pointing out a question for me. Where is it? Oh, P's and tanks. Yeah, if you parry the power-up drops, they will change on screen, and you can pick them up immediately after.
Yes, that is an incredible tip for anyone who wishes to play, because it really does help get... Oh my god, I just pressed X instead of R1.
You need to change the controls over.
Yeah, I really do.
Like, I built that in and use it.
Yeah. It's just whenever I leave it for a moment. But to be honest, well, in fact, here's a question. Okay, here's a couple of questions. I mean, well, you've already answered it, so it doesn't matter. I was going to say, do you do any development outside of Dreams, or do you plan on doing any more outside of Dreams? But of course, you kind of do, in a way, as a producer.
Yeah, kind of. Me and Jeff, Drum and Seven Jeff helped me with the sound on this. We had talked about working on games on Unity, and I still kind of want to pursue that and see where we can get with that, because they've got that node system. It's kind of like the visual logic. I don't want to learn programming. That's a whole other animal that I just don't want to step on. But if we can use, I think they have the Bolt is what it's called. We might give that a try and then see how that goes. We talked about making a beat 'em up. So not really a whole lot of development. Like I work on board games every once in a while. Like I'll come up with an idea for something. Like I'm a huge Godzilla fan, and me and my coworker had come up with this goofy idea for like a kaiju-based card game that was, or not card game, but like a board game that's about just destroying cities.
Okay, that sounds cool.
So me and him will talk back and forth at work. Like, oh yeah, we could try this mechanic out and do this thing. And what about how would this work? Do we make a card building thing built into it? Eventually with that sort of thing, you start to get into like, am I going to market this? Does this become a small business? Do I just make this for myself? Where are we going with this?
So do you plan on... Well, here's the question though. Do you plan on taking this hobby and potentially making more of it? Or just sticking with Dreams and keeping it as a hobby? Because, I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? Because you've obviously learned a lot making this, and you've also proved that you can do something like this. Obviously, I would love if you stuck with Dreams, but I'm just wondering,
Bias. Yeah, no, I honestly right now I'm pretty content to stick with Dreams. Like I've got a job that I love to do. I work with fantastic people, so I don't really have much of a desire to step away from that.
Mm-hmm.
And working on Dreams as a hobby, like I don't feel like there's any pressure. Like I almost feel like if I were to release a game like this on Steam, it might get a bunch of good reviews, and then you get a lot of 14-year-olds that jump in there and say, "This is trash. Doesn't have a start screen or something." Like, and you have to deal with that whole drama, and I just don't know that that's something I want to handle. I mean, obviously that's not going to happen for everyone that makes a game, but like, I've got a little bit of a social anxiety. Having to deal with that sort of stuff is just, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. Sorry, excuse the noise, I just died. But yeah, like, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. I can only imagine that sort of thing. Cause,
it's cool. And there are pressures that come with having to make a game to sell it. I imagine a lot of people do it in their off time, kind of like me making this thing, and I imagine make a complete game that they put on Steam and make some money from.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be a step I take at some point. I think just right now, though, I'm pretty content to just keep this as it is.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fine. That's fine. It's just interesting because I know some people who have made games on Dreams, which they have now started turning into like Steam games. They're like, yeah, I'm remaking my Dreams game, but I'm doing it on Steam.
I saw.
And that's fine. Obviously, that's up to them.
The guy who made Slice is doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah,
yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool, and I mean, it's ultimately good for Dreams as well if it's a success, because you can always say like, "Look, I done this on Dreams. That's where I started out."
I mean, there's
really
no
cool.
part of this that isn't like game dev.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's totally game dev. Yeah. I remember there being a debate on Twitter as recently as a couple of months ago, where people were saying things like, for example, like, is a receptionist at a game company considered as game dev? And they definitely are, as far as I'm concerned. Like, you know what I mean? They literally work for a game developer. I mean, yeah, anyway. I know that's an off-topic thing, but it's like, yeah, I mean, it's game dev, man. It is game dev.
Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting conversation to get into. Like, there's a Discord that I'm in, but I'm not active in. I think it's called like Game Dev Network or something like that. And I remember asking if they can make a space for Dreams users in there. And the first responses I get were like, "There's no real programming in that. That's not game dev." And that's just kind of like the mindset.
It is programming, though. It totally is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean. Yeah, I'm sorry that those attitudes exist, but hopefully one day in the future we can sort of overwrite them, yeah? One day in the future there will be like someone who started on Dreams when they were about 8 years old, and now they're 25 and they're like a BAFTA winner, and they're gonna be like, yeah, I started out on Dreams. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It is gonna happen. Without shadow of a doubt. Like, it's incredible. Like,
yeah, and I mean, there's a lot to take away from working on something like this. Like, this is like how you start to get into doing, like, I don't know, higher level game dev, I guess. Like, it's an awesome stepping stone. It's a really flexible stepping stone. It lets you see a whole lot of different aspects of the industry that you might not get to experience otherwise.
And it's so accessible to everybody. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think that's and that's probably the reason like I wanted this so bad is because I can just sit down with as a hobby thing, and like I said before, I have my hands in everything that goes involved with making this. Like I didn't know how to do music. I got to play around with it, and now I can make kind of cool music. It's not like nearly as good as the stuff that pops up on Monday nights on your stream here, but I make stuff that like I think it fits what I made, so I think that works out.
Your music's perfect, man. Honestly, your music is perfect. Like, it's so good for this stream that you don't even necessarily notice it, and when you listen to it, it's really good music, but when you're playing the game, you don't necessarily notice it, and that's how good it is. That's where good game music comes in, right? Like, it just fits in. Like, you're not hearing it because you're just so focused on the game. Honestly, it works perfect, and it's an amazing metal soundtrack, and if the songs were available as elements, I'd happily play some on Dream Sounds. But they're not, and that's okay. Like, I'm just saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it'd be cool. Like, so me, I don't know much about music. I just kind of played with the tools and came up with something kind of cohesive. It'd be really cool to hear with like what other people do with the tracks I have on here. Like, take this loop and expand it into something bigger or neater or more epic or truncate
Okay.
it and make a different kind of loop. Like that would all be really cool to see.
I would happily get behind that sort of thing. Like, obviously I do the music jams and stuff, yeah? Sometimes those
Yeah.
music jams have actually been to remix soundtracks of popular dreams. For example, the Hops Jam that I released literally earlier today. Literally, I just released this earlier today.
Yeah, it was just before this, right?
Yeah, this is a remix of the soundtrack of the Dream Hops. Every song is a remix of a song from that soundtrack.
Okay.
So potentially, look, man, if you wanted that to maybe be a thing, that could maybe be a thing, and we could take your soundtrack. The only problem, or potential problem, is that you would have to make each of the songs available as elements. You know what I mean? So that people could remix them.
Yeah, I could do that. That'd be cool to do.
But yeah, I mean that could be cool. The votes are always they're always a public vote. Like, for example, this week's music jam is the J. Yoder Vault Jam because that's what people voted for. And also J. Yoder is literally the drummer of One Ton Radio, and he totally deserves a jam. But yeah,
awesome.
they're always public votes, so yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool stuff. Potentially,
Okay.
if you ever wanted it, you don't have to. I'm just saying, if you wanted it, it would be an option.
Yeah, that'd be cool to do. Like if that's, if that gets in the running somewhere along the way, I'll totally make them public assets that people can move around and mess with.
Okay, that would be okay. Well, let's take that as an official thing then. Because honestly, I wouldn't mind. I don't mind putting it up for a public vote if you don't mind doing it.
Yeah.
And it is up to the public whether or not they vote for it. But I don't mind putting it up for a vote. It's not a problem. You know what I mean? And even if it does not win the vote, the thing with these votes is that even when they lose, they don't disappear. A thing that loses the vote this week will still be available the following week. It's just the things that win the vote that disappear, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So yeah, it could be cool. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, because there's a couple of tracks in there that would be like, I really love how this sounds, but man, I would love to see if someone stretched this out into a full track or something. Half my tracks in Starfighter Gemini are loops.
Mm-hmm.
Where else could someone go with that? That'd be really cool to see.
It would be amazing to see what people can do with that. Now, I honestly, I could happily talk for hours more, and previously my interviews have been 4 to 5 hour long things. But I'm trying to potentially... yeah, I mean, forgive me for that, Tricks and Joy. But I'm trying to turn a new leaf where I almost try to keep things a little bit more professional and a little bit shorter, and I try to stick to a schedule of sorts. So I feel like it's maybe about time to start potentially wrapping things up a little. It is 1 a.m. for me. No, you're okay, man. You're okay. I just mean it's better to burn out than to fade away, right? Or whatever. And honestly, this is just an introduction. I am not an amazing or professional interviewer. I'm just having a chat with you here. And this was more of an experience for you as well. Because maybe you'll talk to more people in the future and maybe you feel better for this experience. I don't know. I'm just rambling away here.
I'll be honest. I was a little bit nervous before we jumped in the voice chat, but as soon as we did, I was like, "Oh, it's All-Star. He's awesome."
Well,
I'm kind of relaxed.
Thank you, but look, thank you, but honestly, yeah, I'm just doing what I can to try and promote things and try and help people out a little. And thank you so much for making Starfighter Gemini, and thank you for being so awesome. Thank you for being such an interesting
it as much as you have.
and entertaining guest. Well, look, thank you. If anyone has any more questions from the chat, now is your opportunity, because I think we are going to be ending things in a moment. And that's just
Before
the nature
asks,
of it.
There are no fart noises.
Okay, cool. That's good to know.
Just so we know.
And yeah, Kataya mentions RBD has a game on Steam. He does. RBD Jellyfish does have a game on Steam.
Right?
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's interesting seeing like Dreams developers reach out into other platforms, and I'm more than happy to support them, whatever platform they're on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. But this is your last
Yes.
chance, people. Look, I am sure that you will be hearing more of BoTheGrand in the future, but for now, this is your last chance if you have any questions.
If
Yeah,
you come up with
see,
anything afterwards, just shoot me a direct message or something on Twitter. I'll get back to you.
it's okay, man. It's okay. But seriously, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you for producing Starfighter Gemini. It's incredible. Like, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks
this
for
stream.
having me on. It's been great
Yeah.
to be able to like use my voice to interact with the community, which is I haven't been able to do up to this point, but it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Well,
it was fun coming in to do the interview, talking about my stuff, talking with you. Like it's been fun.
cool, cool. I'm glad you've had a good experience, and again, thank you for just being an awesome creator and an awesome person and an engaging interviewee. Seriously,
Oh, thank
massive
you.
shout out. And I hope that I wish you all the success in the future. I really do. And this stream is not just for today; it is for life. So I'm gonna keep promoting it. It's not just about this interview. It is, it's for life, man. Honestly, like
Yeah.
until the end of time, I will be telling people that Starfighter Gemini is one of the best shmups in Dreams, alongside
Oh.
Tiamatan. So yeah, it's
My heart.
incredible, man. Like, well done,
Thank you so
honestly.
much.
And thank you so much for joining me. If there is anything you would like to say before I cut you off like a rude person, then feel free.
God, I wish I had a list of shout-outs. I mean, obviously it was you. We've talked about how awesome you've been for helping me get this thing out there. Trix and Joey have been fantastic. My beta testers, which were in the credits, are fantastic. JC4TU, I think I missed a letter in there. Super big help. Like your efforts have been not missed. God, everyone else, like Girl from Croydon with the awesome stuff that they've made. Paulo's awesome pixel work that he's seen. Like I wasn't sure you could do that stuff in there, but seeing other shmups and people who've curated shmup lists that kind of helped me figuring out like, hey, I can do this in this game. That's awesome. There's just been so many people that have been awesome in this community that I'm glad I got to interact with.
I'm so glad that you got to interact with the community as well. It's incredible. You've been amazing, and thank you again. There's JC04TU congratulating you on the release in the chat.
Yeah, there he is.
Seriously, thank you. And look, I am going to be shouting from the rooftops about Starfighter Gemini. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for creating it. And eventually, one of us is going to have to end the interview and hang up. I don't mind being that person. I'm just, honestly, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, same here. Same on this end.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to say goodbye just now. And yeah, thank you for joining me. Honestly, if you've not checked out Starfighter Gemini within the Dreamverse, you definitely should. And BoTheGrand, thank you. Peace and love. And I'm going to hang up soon. So yeah, say goodbye.
Bye, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon.
Okay, bye. Bye. And there we go. I do believe that's that. Bo left the party before I did, so I have to say +1 to Bo. Bo won that competition there. They beat me in the leaving the party competition. I'm going to raid Kataya in a few minutes. Kataya has his unexciting asset jam. But seriously, thank you, Bo, for the interview, and thank you for making Starfighter Gemini, and you were a pleasure, and it was nice talking to you. It's always a little bit intimidating arranging these interviews, because I had never spoken to Bo before. Genuinely, had never spoken to them before, as is always the case. And thank you, Bo, for being incredible. Thank you. Thank you for the chat. Thank you for Starfighter Gemini. I'm just going to play a song while I figure out exactly what I'm doing here. But let's face it, I am probably just about to raid Kataya with his unexciting asset jam, and then I'm going to go to bed. However, here we go for now, okay? Here we go for now. I'll be back in a moment.